Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's Tech Talk time, which is the weekly podcast that we do, which goes through the comments section of the previous Tech Talk. Doing it on Friday today, because I actually have time this week to do it. Family's gone back home, and now we're back in business. Of course, the good old mobile sniper event is ready to go. We had a very positive day in it. The first few days got the T72M for Germany sorted, so that's really cool. And I thought we'd just kind of sit down, have a chat about things. Of course, it's been a pretty busy week. They're changing a lot of, I suppose you class it as offensive mechanics in War Thunder right now. So there's a little bit of flux in terms of how much damage certain things are going to do, and it's kind of interesting to see. So hopefully it all kind of sorts itself out. Hopefully everything goes well with it. If not, well, we'll see what goes on. But first of all, we're just going to do the pages of history. There's hardly any vehicles in this page of history, so it's a little bit tough to do. So we'll see what goes on. Nice to see you, Pimp C. Nice to see you two Dads Outdoors. And also Bob Ann. Hopefully everything's okay. But yeah, if you don't know what the Tech Talk is, it's pretty simple. It's a weekly kind of podcast that we do where we go through the comments of the previous one. So if you want something to be in the Tech Talk, make sure to stick it in the comments section of the previous one. We also do live stream it. So if you are a person who prefers live stream stuff, then you can just kind of check it out on either YouTube or Twitch, and we can do it like that. So I do questions live just to make it a bit easier for people who don't have time to do other stuff. I see Matej and also Terminator. Hopefully you're doing good. Making content has been pretty fun recently, so it's been nice to get through everything, and hopefully we can have a good time with everything. So then we have the first comment, and it is the Yovan. Could we get timestamps here? Or you could just make them. That could be a way to put it. I have been doing timestamps for pretty much all my content nowadays, because people have asked for it. It does take additional time away from doing other stuff, but c'est la vie. It's something that I've sorted. Now, when it comes to the Tech Talks, I specifically don't do them because of the fact that they can literally take quite a long time to do. Usually, these Tech Talks are like 2 hours, maybe less, maybe more, depending on what kind of goes on. And I leave it up to community members to make the timestamps. If you do make the timestamps, then I can literally give you like free games. I can give you a bunch of stuff if you want to do them. It's just, I wanted to kind of give something for people to do, and also at the same time kind of see if anybody was interested. Luckily, we have had some individuals interested in the past, but at the same time, that always can't be the case because people do get busy. So there's not really a ton I can do about that. I can, if it's something that becomes too much of an issue, meaning that people really need the timestamps or everything kind of falls apart, then I suppose I can do it. But the problem with that is, as I said, it's a lot of extra effort for me, which means that it takes away from something else. And since I already do a lot of stuff already, adding more to it, especially something that doesn't make any money, would take away from another area of life, which would mean less good life for me, which would mean less content for you, so on and so forth. So it wouldn't really work very well in terms of how this all runs. So the way to solve this is, if people want to do the timestamps, they can do the timestamps, but I'm not going to do them for the Tech Talks because I don't have time. Simple as. So it's kind of like if I did like timestamps for a stream. It's going to take me ages to do it and mean that I won't be streaming half the time because I'll be doing stuff like that. So it's something that doesn't work very well. Now, luckily, when it comes to the world, there are a lot of very successful podcasts, and there are a lot of very successful, content stuff wise, which make a ton of money, which can afford these things. My content doesn't, so that's not going to happen. And yes, I understand the idea of, putting in investments for stuff that doesn't, make money, so then eventually it will make money. This one won't. There is not enough of a market there, even after like 10, 20 years. it's never going to be worth my time to do these things. This is a passion thing and not something which I understand is going to make me a bunch of money. So simple as that. Luckily, I'm able to actually work and, make money that way by using my experience and. So then we have Milthunder. Short question, getting to the point. Is grinding the entire American tech trees worth it? Of course. Whether you're deciding what tech tree to play, there's always going to be reasons to play every single tech tree. Luckily, when it comes to America, it is one of those nations which has a metric ton of reasons to play each of their kind of areas. America ground is very strong. I know a lot of people talk about how poor it is, but it has stabilizers at low tier, which is super easy to use. It gets access to the AP with the HE filler, which is also incredibly powerful. Their naval stuff is unrivaled. They have the best destroyers. They have, some of the best PT boats. They have also the best cruisers, and the battle cruisers are up there. The only thing they don't have is the best top tier, and that's basically because if they did, Gaijin wouldn't get anybody to play anything else. So they will eventually have the best battle cruisers, or maybe not battle cruisers, but definitely battleships in the game. So that's kind of how that goes. For aviation, America is king. It's pretty much as simple as that. Like, America is insanely powerful in aviation, which is why if you play aviation, you'll see that the vast majority of the time, especially at higher echelons, pretty much the whole game is either America versus America, or it is America versus everybody. And that's just because they have access to all the mechanics, all the different vehicles, all the different premiums and everything. America is very good in aviation. So overall, is America worth grinding? If you compare it to all the other nations, you have the most variety, you have the best vehicles per pound, and also you have a few deficiencies in a few areas. But as we've learned from the past, eventually these will be fixed and you'll have a great time. If you have any issues with doing like daily specials or anything like that, or even the majority of pages of history, they involve America, Germany, or Russia. So sticking to those three nations will always do you well. If the question is a major nation, which is generally defined as America, Germany, and Russia, are they going to be fun? Well, yeah, they are. They might even be a bit too fun, because it blemishes other areas. Hey, Hunt, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. They're king with their ammo, but I hate the turn time. Well, on planes? I mean, yeah, they're not the greatest turn fighters, but they're amazing energy. USTree is some of the best low-tier mid-premiums. Yeah, USTree has amazing premiums overall. They also just have, really good tech trees. There isn't really an area of the American, nation, which I would say is not in a great place. Know what I mean? Like, it's generally not something which I feel like is ever going to be in a bad place either. They're always going to get looked after. They're always going to get stuff such as, they're always going to get good event vehicles. They're always going to get everything because they are one of the most played nations. Gaijin has said many times, the fact is, a lot of people play the three major nations, which is why they get looked after the most, because you look after the areas that people play the most. So yeah, it's not too surprising to see America getting pretty much anything at once. One of the biggest issues with America for the longest time is it didn't get access to some areas that it needed. So, for example, one of the areas that America really struggled in was mid-tier AAs. And guess what they're getting over the next update or so? They're getting at least two SBAAs to fill those gaps. Hey, Holly, nice to see you. I'm going to be grinding the Boxer, but there's a page of history event, so we're doing that first. So yeah. If you are contemplating on playing America, you should do it. The major thing that people complain about with America is high-tier American teams. And this is mainly because of decisions that were made in the past by Gaijin to sell high-tier premiums, but also, people not having full lineups at high tiers, and also the idea of having these very, very high tier squadron vehicles. None of these have helped the American grind, and since a lot of them have to actually deal with Heat FS at a stock grind where some other nations don't, and also the other part of it is not having really a very good AA at the highest echelons, means that you have to, well, kind of struggle when it comes to certain CAS elements. So yeah, it's a bit of a rough time, but that is 2% of the American tech truth. You know, simple as. Hey DZ, nice to see you. Last time I heard you talking about light tanks, something reminds me saying it was a French one. Well, France has some of the best and funnest light tanks in the game. Like the AMX 13 series is super fun. The EVR series is super fun. Char 25 is super fun. Even the AMX 10, once you get like it ground out, is really fun. So Mars is even enjoyable now after they changed some of its factors. So yeah, it's one of those areas which is really good. To be honest, I've never grinded any Pages of History event. Are they worth it? If you have the vehicles, they are, yeah. You get a profile picture out of it if you complete all of them. But every time you complete a Pages of History, you get access to a kind of like either a booster or a camouflage or, you know, some SL or, you know, whatever it is. So if you're doing it alongside your standard grinding, it's generally pretty good. Happy Friday, Duncan. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Yeah, that little German light tank's super enjoyable. Nice to see they bring it back. I wish it was brought back more often, or just a standard vehicle so people could. Alright, so the next one is by FlyX. Would like to see the mechanic about the dynamic battle rating in game, because in the higher ranks, a lot of vehicles have upgrades from other vehicles that are a bit below them. While researching modifications for the high rank vehicle, the vehicle has the performance of a lower ranked vehicle. This mechanic could be used to make modifications grind better, better experience, or even add more lineups. Like for France, there's a gap between 9.7 and 11.7, where this mechanic can add a lineup which could make it easier to the player to adapt to higher battle rating, make Gaijin room to add more vehicles in the area. Yeah, I agree. If you want the best example of this, by the way, it's the Magax. So if you have a look at the Magax, have a look at the 8.3 Magax, and then have a look at the 9.3 Magax. So if you actually have a look at the 9.3 ones, they are basically the same in a stock configuration as the 8.3 Magax, right? And the problem with that is that means every time you play a Magak, it gets harder to play because you are having to grind, first of all, higher modification costs to get access to those like factors that make them a higher BR. So usually it's like a round or something like that. But also you have to deal with the fact that you are going up against tougher and tougher opponents. So with the Magaks, you actually get punished by playing later variants of, which is nuts to think about. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't played. Like I spaded a ton of the Magaks. The last one I did was the Hydra, right? But I haven't played a lot of the Magaks in a while because I have like 393 ones to do. I just look at them and I go, okay, so I'm just gonna be in pain for maybe 50 battles, and then I get an APF SDS that justifies its BR, but I still have to deal with like all of the other like factors, and it's just like, why would I do that? Like, what would be the point? And then I have to do it 3 times over. Like, so to give you an example, right? So if you have a look at Israel, so this area here, so you have the Magak 6A, right, and the Magak 5. So these vehicles, they don't have the stabilizer, which is why they're 8.0. And then when you go up to here, so you have the 8.7s, right? So you have the Magak 6R. This one has the stabilizer, which is why it's at 8.7. It also gets M111, right? But if you have a look at something like over here, you have the Rise or the AOS, which is the stabilized M60A1, right? So you have this one. Now this one has the stabilizer, but doesn't get access to the APF SDS. So that is why this is 8.3 and not 8.7. If you have a look at any of these Magacs, right, in this area, what you'll find is they're in exactly the same position until you get the mega round they're supposed to be. So the other part as well is most of them don't get upgraded engines over the standard M60, and also they're heavier. So you actually lose mobility while going through these things. So this vehicle right here, the 7C, if you get the M111, that basically makes it equivalent to an 8.7 vehicle. If you don't have that, it's an 8.3 vehicle. And then you have to get through all of these modifications to get to here and the rest of these, and then you become a 9.3 vehicle. It is just a pain. Like, it's awful. It's really, really awful. So yeah, that's the best example. And they could make it super easy. Like, they could just make it so the basic way of doing it would be to make it so you have like the 4 modification rows, and then when you unlock a modification of, let's say, the next row, so you know, the rank 2 modification, then it just puts it up a BR, right? That would be the easiest way of doing it. That to me would be the way that would be the most fair. And then you could just balance out where the modifications are in those rows. Then they could feel their modification, right? That would be the way that I would do it. It's not foolproof, but nowadays we have so many vehicles where they heavily rely on specific modifications to be their BR. Like, the only reason those Magacs are 9.3 is because they have that round. If you take away that round, they go to 8.7. It's crazy, right? Like, it's just nuts that that's the case. So yeah, it's something that makes me very sad, because as a person who plays a lot of these vehicles, and I know a ton of people don't play these things for that specific reason, or because they've already had similar experiences in other tech trees, it's not very fun. It's not very enjoyable. So hopefully they can do something about it. Because if not, it's going to be very sad. Hey Matrix, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good, man. So then the next point is from Common Sense. Hey Tech, I'm not sure when this happened, but inflation has hit Warthog. 10,000 G has gone from CAD 50 to $64. A $14 increase is hefty. I'm not sure how I'm mad at Gajin or Castro Jr. Glad you had a good visit with your dad, and as always, cheers. Yeah, so when it comes to changing around, when it comes to changing around costs, Gajin does take into account not just you know, the exchange rate, but also taxes, right? So depending on the laws of the land and what is affected by what, like, they change, and it kind of sucks. It's not very fun, right? Hey TK, nice to see you. Yeah, I've got a new headset. This is the Sen. So these are the Sennheiser HD60s. Oh no, sorry, 650s, I should say. They're pretty pricey, but at the same time, I got them at a mega discount. So they're usually around like 600 Canadian, but I ended up getting them for around like 200, 250. And that's the cost of the Game Zero ones over here, which is the ones that I usually use. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to change these Game Zero ones pretty soon anyway. Like, they've lasted like 4 or 5 years, which is nice. So since there was the discount there, I was like, you know what? Let's give these a go. And so far, they've been great. I feel like I can hear colors. It's very, very odd. But yeah, the Canadian economy is not exactly doing the greatest in terms of, you know, USD to CAD at the moment. Obviously, this changes a lot, and just like the Gaijin market, which used to be based around the dollar but is no longer based around the dollar, the Gaijin store also is based around those things. But at the same time, another thing that can change is tax law, right? So it can you have, I don't know, you have sales taxes, right? So you got GST and PST. And I'm not sure if, depending on where you are in Canada, both of them affect you. So in terms of when you buy stuff off the store. But yeah, things are gonna change in price. It's actually insane to me when it comes to War Thunder how a lot of things haven't changed in price in like 10 years. Because when you think about inflation, when you think about, interest rates and all of those things, and also just generally like the price of games, right? Like a lot of games, the way that they've figured it out, which is basically what movies did. If you've ever seen what movies did, so they realized that they couldn't increase the standard price of games above like $70 because whenever they tried to, people just got annoyed. Even though the value of $70 is different now than it was in the 90s when games were $70. So now they take away specific little parts of the content and then just make them ultimate editions and then just increase it by like 20, 30, $40. And then people buy it anyway because they want those little things. And also they're selling the whole like early access thing, right? Like that's another part of it, which kind of sucks. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I can see it being worse, in different ways. But yeah, so when it comes to Gaijin, like the fact that the price of like premium time hasn't changed, the price of Golden Eagles has changed because they removed a discount that used to be on it. So that's another thing, but that's a different story. Hopefully, they never raise the price of kind of like premium time, but something tells me they'll have to at some point. Like the $40 one that they do, because that's been $40 for straight up, I don't even know, like 10 years. So technically, because of like the value of everything, they lose money each year by doing that. But also, if they increased it, people would go crazy. So I suppose that's how they see it. The prices on maple syrup is ridiculously astonishing. True, especially when you realize that maple syrup sales aren't taxed. But the reason why maple syrup is insane is because they price fix. So and by the way that they price fix is they fix the distribution, and also they fix the supply. So like they literally fully control the price. It isn't an open market at all, which sucks. So fun times. A lot of stuff's like that nowadays. Not very good. Yeah, I had a great time with my father. It was really nice to see him. I haven't seen him in like 2 years, and that's just part of living on the other side of the world from him. But no, we had a great time. We went to a bunch of museums. Went to a hockey game, which was super fun. We wanted to see the baseball, but the baseball season just finished. But no, I had a fantastic time with him. It was really nice to see him, and hopefully next time he can come over for longer. But obviously, it's one of those things where the price of stuff over here right now is just insane. Like the amount he had to like pay to just get over here, not just like flight, but like staying in a place and doing all that stuff, nuts. Absolutely insane. But that's just what it is over here. And it's funny whenever I talk to him about it, because he always talks about how like, oh well the prices are the same wherever you go. And it's like, I don't know if you have access to the internet. I don't, because he even comes over here and goes, "Wow, I can't believe that's so expensive." Like he was looking at beef, right? Nice to see a creeper killer. Life's good, and he was, so he was looking at the price of beef, and he was like, "Oh, that's actually not bad. Per kilo, that's pretty much the same as back home." And I looked at him and went, "That's per pound," and he was like, "Oh, okay." So it's like just 2.5 times the price, because you have to add the tax on at the end too. So, and he was like, "Oh, okay." That was kind of one of those things that like finally clicked in his head. That like, yeah, it's just so funny like over here with. But no, I did have a good time. I'm not gonna get into the issues that you know people in Canada are dealing with right now. Let's keep it a little bit positive. So we have Lub Dub. Um, Hi Tech. Hello. Does a folded vehicle provide a research bonus to the next vehicle in the line? For example, the M1 Abrams indicates sufficient progress for the XM803. Does the MBT-70 not provide this bonus? If so, why not? Thank you for your time and the work you do. No, it doesn't. It's just about the first vehicle, which is there. There's a bunch of like weird oddities about vehicles like that, and the way that they implemented it, like I'm very happy that they reduced the research that you need to research the vehicle, but they didn't reduce anything else, and they didn't, increase the bonuses compared to other stuff. So yeah, it's specifically from that vehicle because the folded vehicle is seen as like an extra vehicle instead of a continuation of what you're grinding out. And that's a bit of a problem, right? Like, it really shouldn't be like that. Both vehicles should get the bonus for those vehicles because it means the folded vehicles never can get a bonus for it too, which just sucks. Hey Zero, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. The major problem with that is what you mentioned, but also the fact that even though the research cost for the vehicle is halved, the modification cost for the vehicle is the same, and also the SL cost for everything is still the same. So it's really weirdly set up, the way that they decided to do it. I personally think there would have been a much better way of doing it, just, reducing a lot of the areas and stuff, but yeah, we are... the way that they implemented the folded stuff is really nice, but they could have gone further. I think that's probably the way I'd want to. The other thing is as well is with the vehicles which were in the end of the line vehicles. It was really nice that they reduced those too. But with the amount of vehicles that they're adding, the amount of grinding that a lot of these things take, I honestly feel like they should keep adding more and more stuff. Like the nation bonuses stuff is nice. It's nice to get like bonuses and everything like that. But once again, they're continuing to add more and more stuff. So they just need to keep up with that and just not let go on it. Hopefully we get some RP reduction soon. That would be really nice. But who knows? Like that's something that usually comes around this time. Then we can kind of see it from. How good is the UK11-7 ground lineup? Not sure. I haven't played it in a long time. Last time I played it, I enjoyed the Challenger 2s, but yeah, the metas have significantly changed since then. I've been playing some 10-0 Britain, and that's been really so yeah, it's been really, really nice actually. Then we have Charge. Hey Tech, appreciate the thoughts and feedback on my question from last Tech Talk, enlisted style objectives in War Thunder. Thinking about it more reminded me of the Guardian Angel event from earlier this year. The bomber formation, either attack or defend, was in a way a moving and changing objective. That's kind of the idea I was getting at. I think if objectives and spawns are presented in the way Guardian Angel's accomplished, it would give me the fluidity in battles I look for. And it addresses what I think EC fails. Maybe this event can't translate to naval or ground the same, if at all, but I'm sure ideas can come up. Be happy just to see Guardian Angels come back more often and in different forms. Let's see. Could be a way to introduce things like the Vulcan or the B-52s, the form of air bomber formations. I'm just craving creativity and different ways to play. Apologies for the long comment. Have a good one. You don't have to apologize. I don't mind. It's long form content. So. Yeah, I mean, they could definitely try more stuff like that. They could definitely do more like weekend events, which is around like guard this, whether it's like a convoy mission for ground or whether it's like a, an air mission or naval mission. Once again, trying to relax on the convoys. As a person who played World War mode back in the day, which had a lot of this stuff, what ended up happening is people just figured out the most efficient way of doing it and then just doing that over and over again. It didn't lead to a nice environment. It led to an environment which was fun for about a day, or maybe not even a day sometimes, literally like an hour. And then after that, everything just falling apart because people just worked out exactly how to do everything. The other problem with it was the imbalance of it. So the reason why, so that event that you talked about, right? The Guardian Angel event. The Guardian Angel event has actually been in War Thunder for a really long time. It used to be one of those weekend events that they would bring out during, well, like 2015, 2014. And it was the whole P51 versus 262. You could spawn in a B17 as well. You know, the whole idea was to kind of um, was to do the same thing. The reason why it didn't come back for the longest time is because, once again, people figured it out and also just wouldn't play the objective at all. So, what they would do is instead of just, like defending the bombers from the 262s, everybody just played in the 262s to blow up the bombers and also just to piss about and, do what they kind of felt like. And what ended up happening a lot of the time was there wasn't a way to what's the word? There wasn't the bombers would always get to the targets because everybody wanted to play the 262s, but they didn't want to do the objective. Does that make sense? So that scenario used to happen. Or if you got a very dedicated team if you got a very dedicated team who was there to deal with, the bombers, it would be over in seconds. So it was all based around what players wanted to do and if they decided to play as efficiently as possible or not. Hey, Depitos, nice to see you. Yeah, we're going to be playing ground today. I'm just doing the page of history. So the event didn't come back for the longest time because people figured it out, and therefore it got dull and it got boring. Same with like EC, like people figured it out. So hopefully in the future we can see these types of events, but have them on like a rotation. So you have a different one each week, which does different things. I think that would be really cool, and I think the game could really benefit from something like that. But having the same one all the time is just not going to work. It's not something that would be a great like kind of situation for the game because, as I said, people would just figure them out like they did in the past. Maybe the player base is different now. Maybe there aren't as many like kind of people who are wired that way or or generally would play that way. But I feel like that would be the case. The other thing I remember that was always talked about during that time was the rewards not being high enough. And then there was a lot of people who used to do it just for the rewards. And that's great if the rewards are there, but if the rewards aren't there, they just stop playing. So that could be a bit of an issue too. You need to somehow make a more interesting and better experience than the standard game mode, but also through short periods, which I think can be done, you know. What about World War that I miss? Last one, first one I could attend was 2-3 years ago and I didn't get to do much. I mean, World War mode had really big fundamental issues. So they said that they're still working on it and trying to do stuff with it, but yeah, it fundamentally didn't work. So, and that's kind of sad because you want these things to work, right? But it just didn't. If they'd made it less focused around squadrons and also punish squadrons for basically forming like a few parts before and doing all of these different things, there's many things that they should have done, and I talked about them during the time. But nowadays it's been such a long time, and I don't think it would get any better. When it comes to the competitive side of things, they decided to go a different way, and that's good. Hopefully people enjoy that stuff. But yeah, who knows? Who knows indeed. Hey Titan War, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Then we have organic chemistry. Hey TEC, hope your visit with your dad went well. Family first above everything else, usually. Yeah, it went really well. Had a good time, man. Really lovely to see the pops. And hopefully we can see him again soon. I know he's been building a well recently. Don't know why. I think he just got bored. Hey Labs, nice to see you. I'm doing well, man. Life's good. Can't be mad. Main thing is everything is cooking with gas. Feeling good. Hopefully you are too. Okay, because I'd like to try and get the full experience of it if that ever comes back again. That's fair. I think they should bring back like a kind of a practice mode so people can see how it all worked and have a bit of fun with it. At least like get interest in the command part of it. That'd be fun. We have seen how Snail clearly has no idea just what to do with Hesh. 169, it was basically a better HE. 171 to present, it's inconsistent to the point where you'd never use it except if you have nothing else against an open top. But expanding the current overpressure parameters for Hesh, simply count any penetration from that shell type as overpressuring the target, be it from its unique armor scabbing effect or from the blasting solve the problem. I mean, maybe. In other words, if Hesh penetrates the crew compartments, all the enemy tank dies. Maybe, but once again, like this, it's the same as like the SPH stuff that we talked about before. Like do you want vehicles just to be kind of point and click vehicles? Like, is that what you want kind of in the game? If that's the case, that's fine. Like that's one of the leading things which is against the APHE changes. The idea that you don't have to aim, you can just shoot and then it explodes the tank. Same with like the overpressure with a lot of those vehicles. I'm just not a huge fan of that. I prefer it when people have to aim. I prefer it when people need a bit of skill to be able to, do these things instead of just turn up and just bray somebody with a shell and then they just die randomly. But yeah, that's me. I understand that Hesh is in a negative position. It's not in, the best place we've ever seen it. Hesh hasn't been really that useful for a long time, even against lighter targets. They could add the parameters of HE to Hesh, so if it's over a specific mass, then that could work. So, you don't necessarily overpressure every time. It's more based on the shell and how much oomph it has inside of it. But the main thing I think, when it comes to Hesh that would be interesting would be to give it a bit of additional damage. Doesn't have to be crazy. Just kind of do. I mean, if you want to be hilarious about it, what you could do is you could give it the old APHE effect. So bring in the new APHE effect, then give Hesh the old APHE effect. Because the idea of Hesh and the way it's supposed to work would actually be a little bit more similar to that. The other area. But I don't know. Again, the Hesh idea is weird to me because it's one of those things that we talk about quite a lot. But if I'm honest with it, the amount of vehicles that it affects is so tiny. And those vehicles usually just have better options anyway. So, for example, the L7, right? And then also with the British vehicles, the Challengers, the Chieftains. That's pretty much the only vehicles that Hesh really cares for. So if like the FV4005 is not an issue, because that that is gonna cripple people anyway. So I don't know. It's one of those that we talk about a lot that wouldn't really have a huge impact in the game. So yeah, maybe go a bit crazy with it. Maybe have a bit of fun. Hesh is one of those things which does have the muzzle velocity issue too. So if you made it do more damage than the standard APDS or APFSDS that other nations have, yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe that's the way to have a bit of fun with it. Okay, why not? Let's give it a go. See what happens. Why not? The reason I suggest this comes from historical accounts from Korean T-54 crews getting hit by 90mm Hesh, which in-game does fuck all. Front plate hits from the round directly incapacitate the crew by leaving their ears bleeding, even though there wasn't a massive amount of scabbing or blast damage. That sounds an awful lot like crew incapacitation from overpressure, blowing out their eardrums so they can't communicate. Yeah, probably. But I feel like if they got hit by an AP shell, then they would leave the vehicle if they got penetrated. So, once again, be a little bit careful with historical stuff in terms of these things, because every time historical stuff works in your favor, in terms of what you want implemented into the game, it will do the opposite too. So, every time, every time you get access to something that is historical and seen as fun and interesting, you'll also get somebody who wants your crew to be shocked every time you get shot. And then, so your crew will be constantly paralyzed every time you get hit by an autocannon or every time you get hit by other stuff, which is something, that Gaijin talked about with larger caliber ammunition. So, yeah, historical stuff is all well and good. It's great to go through, but just be very careful with using it for reasoning when we talk about adding mechanics and stuff to War Thunder, because if that justification can be used for that, it can be used for a bunch of other stuff too, right? Hey, Dado, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. The healing crew stuff is in the game, yeah. Basically, if your crews are tomatoes, they change to orange, so therefore you don't lose all the capabilities. So yeah, they don't heal fully, but they just heal to the point where your crew skills aren't affected. The tinnitus effect they pulled, yeah, and then in enlisted they literally added it. That was a fun time. Brain was bleeding. Then we have Astrofax. Would like to see a game mode like Sim for Air, but with realistic controls and historically accurate BRs. Only for jets. Just the space and the low count of players make it so fun. It would be better if they made it possible for realistic controls. No red indicators for enemies. Keeping locked BRs so that in no world can an F-14 meet a Mirage 3C. I don't think F-14 can see a Mirage 3C now anyway. Can it? But at least when the BR changes come in, you definitely see it. The other part is on jets is not the area you want to touch in terms of jets is not the area you want to touch if you want to do historical matchmaking. We've talked about this a lot. The jet ages, depending on what country you're looking at, are very different from each other. So for example, the MiG-23 MLD. So this is the one which is always kind of the go-to one. The MiG-23 MLD, the first flight of the MiG-23 itself was in 1967. Then the standard MiG-23 was added in 1970, right? But the actual MLD is from 1980, which is kind of nuts. Hey, Holy Rune, nice to see you. Or if you have a look at stuff like the jets from the 100 series jets. I can't remember what they're called. This is it the Centurion series or Century series? Basically the American F-100, F-104, the Voodoo when it gets added, stuff like that. If you have a look at when those are made, it's crazy. Like in terms of that. And I've done videos in the past going through like different vehicles and when they were kind of tested or when they were introduced into service, and how ridiculous it would be to have matchmaking in jet areas. Like for example, the Viggen. If you have a look at when the Viggen turned up, or even like this new J10, right? Or the Su-27SM, which is a post 2000s vehicle. Like, and it's right now it's going up against 80s vehicle. So yeah, just be very, very careful with these ideas, because they won't lead to where you want them to lead. Well, what they'll end up doing is they'll leading to a point where people will only play 1 or 2 vehicles in that bracket because they're the dominant ones, and you won't see anything else. Which is basically what happens in Sim anyway. Luckily in Sim, you have like that setup where you have to make like spawn points in order to get the higher end ones, but in Ground, you don't. You just bring in the stuff you want. But I'm pretty sure they changed that, or at least they tried changing it. I just don't know if there was enough people who was playing it. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like if you think if you know about American vehicles and if you know about Russian vehicles, that's all good. But just remember, like, there are other nations in the game that don't meet the same standard in terms of evolution of jets when they were around. So you're just gonna end up in a really horrific situation. Do I think the SWIP is real? What do you mean? Does it exist? The SWIP does exist. If you mean like when it comes to War Thunder, it's kind of like an on-running joke, right? Like it being added or not added. But it will eventually come. It's just like how does it come as an event vehicle, come as another premium, like what happens? But yeah, it'll come. The good old Swippy boy. Right, so yeah, and also the other thing I would say about stuff like this, so the other thing I would say about if you want like a game mode set up like that, the best thing to do is to actually get like-minded people together and make some custom battles. Because you can basically make all of these things if you want, and then test it, and then see how it feels, and then kind of put forward an idea, right? But that's pretty much the way to set it up. Then we have Kilda. Hello, Tech. Hope I'm well. I'm okay. Can't be mad. Life is going okay right now. Not too shabby. In some older videos, you say at the start, you had last night 1 too many beers. This made me curious about your opinion about alcohol. Do you drink often? What do you like? And are there any recommendations for me to try? And have a good day. I don't drink that much. So, I drink probably once every like few weeks at most. Usually if we go out to like a place, I'll probably have like a few beers or something like that. Or if we're at like a sporting event, I might get like a drink just to kind of be a little bit more chill and relax. But I never really drink at home. I think that's usually pretty bad to do because it can become a pretty bad habit. When I was younger, so my mother was a raging alcoholic. She drank a lot of alcohol, especially in the years before her death. And she was a person who, at one point, went through 300 wine bottles in a month. So she was drinking 10 wine bottles a day. And that was when I was like 14, 15. So I think it's fair to say when it comes to alcohol, I have a pretty negative relationship with it because of family stuff, but also because of in my teenage years just seeing a lot of people do very silly stuff while under the influence. So that doesn't mean I think alcohol should be banned or drugs should be banned or smoking should be banned or anything like that. But my personal experience with it is, pretty down there. So I don't tend to drink as much as a lot of people do from where I'm from. Because where I'm from, the drinking culture was quite aggressive. Alcohol was incredibly cheap. And if you went out, you would drink quite a lot, no matter what age you were, even if you were like 12 or 13. Like, I had my first alcohol when I was like 7, I think, 7 or 8. And when you're like mid-teenagers, that's more of like a standard thing to do with mates, right? You would go out to like a house party, you would drink, you would do some other things, you'd have a bit of fun. And that's just because I grew up in a very rough area around a lot of very rough people. So yeah, I make sure that if I do drink, I don't drink a lot. And if I am, it's usually trying like different tastes of things, like trying different stuff in terms of tastes. There's a lot of like micro kind of breweries around here, or basically like little breweries that do a bunch of really interesting stuff. So if I am going to like have some people over and I know that they like to drink or whatever, usually I will like buy like a case of that, and then we'll give it a go and test it out and see the different flavors. But from in terms of like what I would recommend um for somebody to drink, I mean, I'm not sure. AP to the Great, nice to see you. Pear cider is one of my favorites. I do enjoy pear cider quite a lot. I'd probably put pear cider on the list of things to give a go at. I don't know how easy that is to get a hold of, but it can't be that hard in terms of how it's all set up. So yeah, pear cider would be one. There's a lot of like schnapps which are quite nice and pretty chill. The major thing with alcohol is just, as I said, like do it for the taste and the enjoyment. Just don't do it to go a bit nuts. I really like rosé if it's like super chilled. I think that's really nice on the tongue. That one's pretty good. And then also just try like a bunch of different like beers and things and see what you like. Some people really like beers, other people hate them. For me, I like them. Like they're all right. I kind of stay away from like stouts though. They're a bit heavy for me. And you know, I know people like Guinness and stuff like that. I'm not hugely into Guinness. I'll drink it. Usually, if I'm going out, I'll just have some kind of like nice hard cider. That's what I'll do. Hey Monet, nice to see you. Yeah, pear cider is better than apple cider. Apple cider is also very good. Pear cider is better. It's definitely a better taste. Also, the other thing is like shots and stuff like that. Like I don't have a huge repertoire of shots and things that I've actually tried. Um, so I'm not really sure how to help somebody with that side of things. But I tell you one thing that's super fun. That's also not really that hard to make. Espresso martinis give you an interesting kick. So I'd give I'd give that one a go if you're able to. But honestly, with alcohol, because there's so many different like alcoholic beverages nowadays, it's worth just giving a bunch of them a go and seeing what you like. It's kind of like food, right? Like you don't want to go OTT and go crazy, but you want to try different stuff and see where it sits with you. Um, like I have a lot of faith in human beings. You know, even though in my life I've dealt with a lot of people who have had addictions of different things, whether it's like drugs or alcohol, whether it's family members or friends. But the average person is pretty good when it comes to, you know, sorting that stuff out. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It just it's just all about making sure it doesn't become part of your standard cycle. Like the idea that you don't need alcohol in order to have enjoyment with. All you need is bowling. Bowling's fantastic. You should go bowling. Bowling's really. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Haka. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Then we have Maxwell. Here we go. Hello TEC. Sorry for dropping 4 comments last time. I got impulsive. Oh, it's okay. It's fine. um, I want to ask if I have a War Thunder account from the main platform and I get it to Steam too. Is there a way I can connect my Steam with it? Maybe I could get a lot of Steam achievements like that, and also the hour counter. Another thing I would like to say that on the modification thing I mentioned, he showed some evidence that some RP that was supposed to go to modification straight up didn't. Modification he was researching were not impacted at all by the entire game. Well, that's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. No idea. The only time I've ever seen that happen is when the system doesn't catch up to when you leave a game, and then you go into the next one, and then it adds it in the next one. So it's kind of like a lag of the system. But that kind of screws up when it comes to like bonuses and things. But yeah, if it's talking about that, then yeah, that can be really annoying. So I don't know. When it comes to Steam stuff, I'm not entirely sure how it works. So I've had my Gaijin account for ages, and I've also played War Thunder through Steam for ages through the Gaijin account because you can launch the War Thunder launcher through the Steam. So I just do that, and I've just always done that. So I just use the Gaijin account and then do that. I don't. I know they changed how the system works a while ago, but I have absolutely no idea how they changed it in terms of like how it actually is changed in the system that they have. So if something has drastically changed compared to like when I did it, which is like 10 years ago, then yeah, I'm not sure how it works, but at least for me, that it was as simple as just, you know, downloading Water through Steam, opening up the launcher, playing it through the launcher, and then kind of doing it like that. So yeah, simple as that. Um, the yeah, the modification thing I'd have to just look more into. Like right now when it comes to War Thunder, I'm just kind of enjoying playing again. You know, instead of discussing things outside of the game and what should come to the game or what should fly about the place. For me, what has actually been really fun with War Thunder is just like straight up playing, like just getting the hours in, having fun with the grind, and doing it like that. So I'm gonna continue to do that, and then we can chat about stuff based upon that, like the BR changes video I made today, or a few other ones that are going to like turn up too. For me, that's the part that I am actually really enjoying with it right now, and I hope to continue to enjoy that. Because there was a time in War Thunder for me where it seemed like we were always talking about just future stuff. Like, when's this gonna happen? When's this gonna happen? When's this gonna happen? And there's still that, there's still a bit of that around. But for me, I'm just happy that, I'm just playing a bunch of the vehicles I wanted to play for a long time, completing a lot of stuff that I wanted to complete, and also just getting the balance right in terms of playing and also like doing some other stuff. So it's been really good. I've been really enjoying it. Hopefully it can continue. Hopefully everything can hopefully everything can go well. But if not, c'est la vie. We continue, we have a bit of fun. Right. That's the last part of the tech talk, by the way. Pretty short one this week. Not a ton to go through. But it wasn't exactly a crazy busy week either. Like the last week. So we just had the Boxer event announced, and then like that was it. So this week with the Boxer event, there's a bit more going on. But until we get into the update season, I don't think anything will really change. But do you guys have any other kind of questions from the live part of things? If not, we'll just get into the grinding of the event. Even though we did really well yesterday, there's always more to do. One of the areas is getting this done right now. Naval AB is 1.9 times. It's nuts. Yeah, even if you get like a tiny amount, you can get so much done with it. These pages of histories and naval, people always complain about them, but like get it done in like 3 or 4 games. Like it's crazy. I do need to finish the 6.0 cruisers though. In America, I still haven't finished those. Took me a long time to get to like where I did with them, and I'm like halfway through the last 2, and then I'll be good to go. But it's been a bit of a slog since I spaded like 6 of them. Kind of crazy when you think actually. You'll get that done pretty soon. But yeah, thoughts on BVD still not implementing the genocide game mode. I do want to know what the genocide game mode was. Like, I think I'm pretty sure it was just like a free for all or a team deathmatch mode, but I think he should clarify what the genocide game. Because obviously we're all eagerly awaiting it. It'd be nice to see another dev Q&A actually. When was the last time we had a dev Q&A? It was a while ago. I suppose nowadays they do the covert disclosures thing, so therefore they can just kind of like show different stuff and keep people happy with it. I suppose that probably works better, right? Like doing it like that. How do you think they could improve high tier mod grind? Well, they could make the mods less impactful. That would be the first way of doing it. So you don't feel as much kind of a hit when you grind out. when you have to grind out the mods. So for example, for like the APF SDS stuff, you could literally make it so you get like a certain amount at maximum of an APF SDS round, and you're not allowed to take any more than that until you research the modification, and then you're able to take as much as you want. So for example, I'm playing the TTD, right? We just got the Heat FS. But sorry, it starts with the Heat FS. We just got the M111. But imagine if you could get like 5 rounds of the M111 at the start of the grind, just to make it a little bit easier. So the way that you make modification grind not as bad is you remove the, parts that you remove the modifications giving you so much power in the first place. And then also, the adjustable BR stuff we talked about, that obviously would help out quite a lot. There's a bunch of other stuff that, would help out too. But yeah. Hey, Pierre, nice to see you. You doing okay? How much ammo should you carry in a tank in general? Really depends on the tank. So first thing that's very important in a tank is the first stage ammo stowage. A lot of vehicles have first stage ammo stowages. It's good to know where a vehicle actually models that. A lot of high tier tanks have blowout panels on their areas, so you should definitely fill the area which is filled with the blowout panel, but probably shouldn't take more than that. The major thing I kind of work around depends on how confident I feel with a vehicle, but 15 to 20 or 25 rounds. So for like Soviet vehicles, I usually take 15 because they have a very, very heavy punch, so I don't usually need more than 1 or 2 rounds to kill something. 20 on a lot of standard vehicles, and then if the first stage ammo stowage is less than that, usually I'll go more around them if it has blower panels. If not, it's around 20. That's usually what I go for. But as I said, it depends on the vehicle. Like for example, the Leopard 2 has I think an 18 ammo rack, so you take 19 because you got one in the breech and then one in the other part. I might let me just check. When it comes to autocannons and stuff like that, just take as much ammo as you want because you're gonna die anyway. But like stuff like the Leopard 2A4, for example, yeah, so it has a 15 first stage ammo stowage, so you take 16 rounds. So 1 in the breech, 1 in the ammo, and then none down here. The major thing you're looking for on a vehicle, no matter what BR you're looking at, is what does the first stage look like. So for example, on a Tiger 2 that you can see here, the most important thing about this Tiger 2 is the first stage ammo stowage, which is here, right? So if this vehicle has 22 pieces, then it loads this area at the back and then nowhere else. So you don't have any ammo on the sides. Now the other thing to also note is the loader is on this side, so this area of the ammo is going to be loaded first compared to this one. So if you actually want to not get hit in the ammo that much, you only want to take, 14 rounds? And that's it. But you should take around 20 so it only fills this area, right? That's how I see it. Same with like other vehicles like the Panther. So it's all about what area do you want filled. And some vehicles you're always just going to struggle with, like in terms of like where the ammo is. You can see here the loader's here, so the first ammo is probably around this area. But the major thing is trying to find a balance between, damage output and survivability. And around 15 for Soviet autoloaders, 20 or 25 for most vehicles, that is for me the way to go. Like that would be the way to sort it out. That's fair. So for the pages of history, I got a camo for this guy. But the only camos that are available, or I thought the camos were just for the vehicles that you had in the event. That's weird. Odd. So yeah, that's basically the way like to do it for me. Right, so that's the end of the tech talk. It'll be up on Sunday, I suppose, and then we will get back to grinding. Look after yourselves. Peace be with you. See you soon.